This year, it's all about the new. New decade, new faces, new expectations. And as the Cowboys are on their quest for 6, they got the same dream. Where would this team go? There's no limits to what they can accomplish. So with a fresh perspective and a new direction, the 2020 Dallas Cowboys are determined to find greatness. And it all starts this offseason, right here on The Blitz.
It's another edition of The Blitz from our respective Academy Sports and Outdoor studio, continuing to social distance and work from home a little bit as we lead into the draft. It's the draft preview edition of the Dallas Cowboys Report. I'm Kyle Youmans alongside the great Nick Eatman. And Nick, it's crazy. We're within a week of the draft and we're continuing to roll forward and try and piece together exactly what this offseason is going to end up looking like for the Dallas Cowboys. I've got my lucky Cowboy Joe pin on. Do you have any of those traditions, those superstitions going into draft week to hopefully think that everything's going well?
Not really superstitions. You know, the thing I've always thought about the draft is that as much as you want to prepare, you can have all of these things ready to go. You can never get ahead of the draft, ever. And that's just, and now it's just kind of one of those things where you just know it's going to be crazy. And this year is going to be even crazier just because, you know, communication is going to be tougher. But, you know, it's always something. You know, for those people that says, I've seen it all, no, you haven't. You haven't seen a draft like this, so it's going to be interesting.
Haven't seen a draft like what we're going to see, and then it's also going to be very close to an offseason like no other because virtual workouts are underway, and this has been a crazy offseason already, but officially underway for Mike McCarthy and staff as of this week. You've got the playbooks being sent out. You've got virtual voluntary workouts. It's definitely a different offseason overall, Nick.
Yeah, without a doubt, and you know it's not ideal for any coaching staff, especially one like this, where you know this is the first time that these players and coaches have really been able to talk. In some cases, I bet you know Mike McCarthy hasn't met all of the players, and so you know it's not exactly ideal to you know introduce themselves in a Zoom call or something like that. But hey, you got to make the most of what they have, and so I think that it'll be very interesting to see how it all happens. You know, we'll probably hear stories down the road, but you know, it's going to be really a good way for the Cowboys and their new staff to kind of connect everyone together.
A new staff and plenty of holes to fill through the draft. But the thing is with the Cowboys, they're not the only ones in the NFC East with some holes to fill. And then also two other teams have some new staffs as we take a look at some of the team needs overall. I mean, Philadelphia even, the only team that returns their head coach from 2019, still in need of a receiver. They signed Darius Slay, but still need some cornerback help and then a little bit of help in that linebacking core. New York overall, their biggest need is offensive line, no doubt about it. And you could say really the same thing about Washington and the Redskins. However, Washington has a unique opportunity right up at the beginning of this draft with a guy named Chase Young, the edge rusher from Ohio State, one of the most perfect prospects we've seen coming out of the draft over the last couple of years. Can they afford to take anybody else other than Chase Young?
Yeah, they can. They should take a quarterback, and they don't need to take Chase Young at all. He needs to go to the AFC for sure. Now,
I like that.
You know, Tyron Smith might be with me on that as well, even though you know he's never faced the challenge that he didn't meet head on. But Chase Young, I think it's unfortunate for him that one of the greatest college football players we've ever seen in Joe Burrow. Man, I'm sounding like Dave Hellman right there. But no, I mean he was unbelievable, and he's the number one pick. But Chase Young should be the number one pick in almost any other year, and so you know Washington they can't afford not to take him.
And then you look at the Giants, they're in a similar situation with really a ton of needs, but they've got a guy like Isaiah Simmons that could go to them at pick 4 overall. Is this a chance where you see either Isaiah Simmons go, or should they stick with their need and go with offensive tackle?
Well, you know, when you're picking in the top 5, you know, you need everything. I mean, you know, we put 3 needs up there, but they probably, could use 6 or 7 more things. I mean, it sounds cliche, but you really just need to take the best player available there, because unless a quarterback or a running back, those are the 2 young guys that they have. But I mean, for me personally, I would take a wide receiver for the Giants. There's so many good ones. Jerry Jeudy, I think he would be a great fit there. But, they can't go wrong with taking a really good player, because they need help just like a lot of teams.
Well, a team that does need some wide receiver help as well, Philadelphia, the defending NFC East champions, picking at 21 overall. They need a wide receiver overall. You mentioned it. It's a deep class at that position. Who do you think fits best in Philly?
Man, there's so many good ones. They're going to be just a product of the board to see who falls to them. I could see a guy like T. Higgins, maybe they like him. Help me with the pronunciation here. Chenault from Colorado.
Yeah, Laviska Chenault.
A bigger guy like that. But anybody that works. Jalen Reagor from TCU. I mean, he's a guy that I think it could fit there on what they're trying to do. So the Eagles, that pairing anybody up with Carson Wentz, it would be a scary thing for the Cowboys defensive backs, because it's a very loaded receiver draft.
I'll tell you what, I do not want to see a receiver twice a year wearing an Eagles uniform out of this specific draft class. There's so many guys that could go that direction. When we come back, we'll continue previewing this draft, tell you what David Hellman thinks the Dallas Cowboys should do whenever April 23rd rolls around.
The Dallas Cowboys Blitz is brought to you by AT&T. Just okay is not okay. And by the Dallas Cowboys Football Club. This segment is brought to you by AT&T. Just okay is not okay.
The Blitz rolls along here on Draft Week as we continue to preview the 2020 NFL Draft, and our DallasCowboys.com draft expert David Hellman joins us to tell us exactly what the Cowboys need throughout the course of the draft this year.
Thanks, y'all. Well, wow. Somehow, some way, it's Draft Week. We've been talking about these prospects since January. Feels even longer this year due to the obviously unforeseen circumstances, but hopefully you've got a handle on this draft class. Hopefully you picked up a copy of the Star Magazine Dallas Cowboys Draft Guide. If you haven't done it, you still have time. Point being, there's not that much talking left to do. It is time to add this next crop of Dallas Cowboys players. Now look, I've been locked in my apartment for 5 weeks. I can tell you all about the players. I can tell you all about the Cowboys' needs. I can't tell you to a certainty what they are going to do over these 3 days of the 2020 NFL Draft. I wonder if they even have a clear idea yet. But what I want to do heading into Draft Week is just give you a snapshot. The Cowboys have a lot of work to do, not a lot of picks to do it with. Here's what I'm looking for them to come out of this draft with. Now, for my intents and purposes, they have 7 picks in the draft. There's 7 rounds. It's really the first 4 that are the meat and potatoes. That's where you're going to find the guys that should definitively help your team. If you get something after that, 5th, 6th, 7th round, that's what we would call lagniappe back in Louisiana. Just a little something extra. But for my intents and purposes, I'm looking at the first 4 picks. That's 17, 51, 82, and 123. Now, what do we know about the Cowboys' needs? For my money, it starts in the secondary. The Cowboys only have 1 proven cornerback under contract beyond 2020. By the way, their starting trio of Anthony Brown, Jordan Lewis, Chido Awuzie probably could use some upgrading. How about the safety position? HaHa Clinton-Dix, Xavier Woods, both only on 1-year deals. They're both free agents next year. I think in those first 4 picks, you could make a case for 2 defensive backs to be the call. Now, is it C.J. Henderson at pick 17? Is it somebody like Noah Igbenogany at pick number 51? How about Terrell Burgess, the safety out of Utah, at pick number 82? I don't know, but I am looking at DBs big time in the first 4 rounds. On top of that, we've talked about the defensive line. The Cowboys addressed the defensive tackle position with Dontari Poe and Gerald McCoy. Could still bolster that up if the value lines up right. How about edge rusher? Alvin Smith and Randy Gregory, not reinstated by the NFL currently. A guy like Kayla Chason at pick 17 makes a lot of sense. You could find some down-the-line guys if you wanted to. I think Chason, for my money, is the biggest bang for your buck. And rounding it out, how can I forget about wide receiver? It is an absolutely loaded receiver class. I think the Cowboys would be making a mistake to ignore it, whether that's a CeeDee Lamb or a Jerry Jeudy in the first round. Can I interest you in a Jalen Reagor later on? Devin Duvernay, we've talked about him plenty, out of Texas. My personal pet cat, Lynn Bowden Jr. out of Kentucky. There's wide receivers littered throughout the first 4 rounds of the draft. I think there's about a dozen guys the Cowboys would come away with who could play right away in 2020. So I'm looking at DBs heavy. I'm looking at pass rushers if I can find one, and you would certainly be doing yourself a favor if you could find a receiver. Interior offensive line, I get it. It's something they could do. I can wait on that personally. Again, get me guys who can take the ball away. Get me guys who can rush the passer. And if you can add to that explosive offense, I say do it. We will see what the Cowboys do this coming weekend. I'm excited it's finally here. Back to y'all.
Thank you very much, Dave. And of course, you being an LSU grad, you've had your eyes on Kayla Vaughn, an LSU edge rusher who could potentially be there at pick 17 for the Cowboys.
This segment was brought to you by AT&T. Just okay is not okay.
Welcome back to the Blitz, and one of the more popular names surrounding pick 17 overall for the Dallas Cowboys has been the LSU edge rusher Kayla Vaughn. Whether it be controversial or not, he could potentially be there for the Cowboys, and I think he's got a pretty high ceiling as well.
Okay, well, it's obvious. I'm going to be honest. I'm actually the most valuable player in the draft.
For LSU edge rusher Kayla Vaughn, there's no such thing as a shortage of confidence.
When you hire somebody, you want to hire someone who speaks one language, or you want to hire someone who speaks 3 languages. I speak 3 languages. I do pass rush. I can drop in coverage and coverage anybody you want me to cover, and I can play the run, and no offensive lineman had ever just moved me off the ball and bullied me. So I'm saying, like, we watch tape, I'm putting a bunch of guys on their tail now. I mean, I can fit in any system. I mean, put a blindfold on me and just throw me in there, and I'm ready to roll.
Chason was an anchor for the national champion LSU Tigers defense with 7 sacks, 21 hurries, and 19 run stops. All solid numbers, but still short of the lofty expectations that surrounded his 6'3", 254-pound athletic build, which presents scouts with an age-old question of tools versus production, one that Chason says he left all the answers for out on the gridiron.
Watch the film. Watch the film. Don't let sacks fool you. Every game, if you watch, and I can pull it up for you if you will, but every game I'm making a production, my impact is being felt. I got some power behind me too, so a lot of guys, when they say I'm just speed, they obviously don't watch film. I mean, that's something I can't judge you about, but I know I definitely I'm more than a one-dimensional player. Got speed, power, finesse, whatever you want, I got.
The Houston native grew up with a passion for football, inspired by his family that he displays on every snap.
I've been playing football all my life. It's something that I truly love. I feel like it's the most important thing in my life right now, behind my family and the man above. I don't do this for recognition or purpose, but it's just a game I love. It's something that I can give my heart and passion to.
His play has landed him on the verge of becoming a first-round draft pick, one that is likely to still be on the board for Dallas at pick 17. And Chason is not afraid of the pressure that comes with becoming a Cowboy.
I mean, every big players make big-time plays in big-time games, and I'm never shying away from anybody or no specific player, no situation, no showcase. But it shows to tell you that whenever the team need me the most, I'm always be there. I'm glad I got a chance to show up when the team need me.
Hopefully the Cowboys have as much confidence as Chason does whenever they make their pick at 17 overall. And you may see Kayla Vaughn Chason's name coming up here in just a little bit. When we come back, Nick Eatman and I will look through our 7-round mock drafts surrounding what the Cowboys could do this upcoming week. Welcome back into this edition of The Blitz. It's the Dallas Cowboys Report, and we're from our respective Academy Sports and Outdoor studio. Time for some mock drafts. Of course, this is the mock draft or the NFL draft preview show, and We've got 7 rounds, both Nick Eatman and myself, and I'm going to start things off, Nick, if you don't mind, and I'm going to go through my 7 picks overall. I start with Kayla Vaughn, the edge rusher from LSU that we just talked about in the last segment. I just think his potential and his ceiling is too high to pass up in the middle of that first round. You could potentially trade back and maybe try and find a hole with him, or try and find a pick where he's still available maybe in those early 20s, but I think 17 is the sweet spot for Chason overall. In the third round, I want to highlight Terrell Burgess because I think this might be one of the biggest value picks of the entire weekend. The safety from Utah, one of the best man-to-man coverage safeties in the entire draft. This is an individual who's 5'11", 202 pounds. He's one of the more experienced safeties in the entire country and one of the highly rated ones as well. He was the back half and anchor of a very, very good Utah defense that, for those college football fans out there, remember they were kind of clamoring and making a case for the college football playoff going into the final couple weeks of the regular season. So I do like him. He's got a Pac-12 teammate at round 4 was Shane Lemieux, the offensive guard out of Oregon. And of course, with the retirement of Travis Frederick, that interior offensive line needs a pick-me-up, and I think Lemieux could do just that. That's a Senior Bowl guy who I think is somebody that I know Nate Newton, the 3-time Super Bowl champion, is really high on. He fell in love with Lemieux during the week down in Mobile, so I think Lemieux's a guy who could come in and make an immediate impact and add some depth in the interior of that line. On the outside of the line, I've got an offensive tackle in round 7, Colton McKivitz out of West Virginia, a Big 12 body for sure. And this is an individual that I think will be there come late day 3. And if he's on the table and you've addressed your need at corner, I have 2 corners being selected, a safety and even a wide receiver in Jawan Jennings that could be a big slot. I think Colton McKivitz could end up being that guy at offensive tackle. And I know you and I, Nick, shared a pick the second round with Cameron Dantzler out of Mississippi State. I like him a lot.
Yeah, he's got that size that you're looking for. A couple years ago, Chris Richard talked a lot about cornerbacks and being a big physical guys, and he made Byron Jones into an all-pro player with that transition. No longer here, but still, Al Harris is the new cornerbacks coach, and he was a big physical guy. So I think Dantzler fits that mold to a T. He's a guy that's long and rangy, and playing in the SEC, he certainly has been physical and going up against some really good receivers. But not to get ahead of myself, we'll stick to the SEC first round. I went with safety, Xavier McKinney. I just think he's a guy that is a really good player. He's long, he's physical, and he plays close to the line of scrimmage. I mean, that's really what I like. I mean, Alabama's got a lot of guys in this draft. They'll have guys probably in next year's draft. And he led the team in tackles with 95. And that defensive line's not just letting guys get to the secondary. He's getting up there making plays. I think he had 6 career sacks, so he knows how to blitz and disguise his blitzes. He's a smart player. I just think if he's there, that would be a really good pick, and it might be a trade down scenario too, but getting a safety I think is important. I moved around a little bit in the third round. I like Devin Duvernay out of Texas. I think he gives them everything that they need out of a third receiver. He can play the slot, he can run faster than anybody on the team. He's a punt returner, and he catches the ball. He's very reliable. I think that would be a perfect fit for the Cowboys in the third round. And then just kind of going through the later picks, I really like Evan Weaver out of Cal. He's a physical player, helped their defense. Best player on that defense last year. I got to take an Arkansas guy too, McTelvin Agim. He's really jumped up in both the Combine and the Senior Bowl and helped his cause there. But I like you. I took 2 corners because I think it's a position of need, Kyle.
There's an obvious need for secondary when it comes to a couple of corners being taken, and then even the safety position as well whenever we head into this NFL draft. When we come back, we're going to wrap things up, give you our final thoughts as we continue to preview draft week here on the Blitz.
The Dallas Cowboys Blitz was brought to you by AT&T. Just okay is not okay. And by the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
Final segment here of the Blitz, the Dallas Cowboys report, and our draft preview as we head into the week of the NFL Draft, and it's no better time to get your 2020 Dallas Cowboys Star Magazine Draft Guide. Nick, you can not only just get the digital copy, but hard copies now available at local stores.
Yeah, if you must get out and get to the stores to get those essential things, I mean, that magazine's got to be up there as well, especially this week. When you're just trying to figure out, hey, who can the Cowboys get, and when everyone becomes an expert, at this point when you're on the clock, why don't they get this guy, this guy, and what I really like about the magazine is just the kind of the tidbits, the fun, the nuggets that we put this year. Plus, it was laid out in a beautiful way, so it's a must to get.
Yeah, whole new exciting look, and then it's also got that Dallas Cowboys personal touch there as well. It's definitely an essential read for all of those Cowboys and draft fans out there. For Nick Eatman, I'm Kyle Youmans. So long for the Blitz. Have fun on draft week as the Dallas Cowboys have the 17th overall pick.